I would now like to deal with the multiplication and the division of complex numbers. As always, I like to put down both formats of the number, both in the polar as well as in the rectangular format, just in case I need them in the calculation itself. I'm going to use exactly the same two numbers that I did use for the addition and the subtraction. I've got A, which in its polar format is going to be 12 with an angle of 40 degrees, and I've got B, which in its polar format is going to be a value of 8 with an angle of minus 55 degrees. Now, just for completeness, I always like to go and put down the rectangular format, but I know I'm not going to use it in this calculation, but I'm going to go put it down anyway. And that gives me the polar as well as the rectangular format of A and B. And that is going to be your rule. Whenever you are multiplying or dividing, then you're going to make use of the polar format of the number. And you can see that my polar format is going to be on the top left-hand side. So whenever you multiply and divide, you use the polar format. Let's go and do that. I'm going to start off by doing A multiplied by B. So for A multiplied by B, I'm going to go and write down 12 with an angle of 40, and that is going to be multiplied with 8 and an angle of minus 55. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the two numbers on the outside of the bracket and I'm literally going to multiply them with each other. So in this case, 12 times 8 is going to give me a value of 96. And then for the angle, what I do is I add the two angles. So I'm going to add the 40 to the minus 55. Be careful, one of them is negative. So if I do go and add the 40 to the minus 55, I'm going to end up with an answer of minus 15 degrees. And that's my final answer. Of course, there's nothing stopping you from converting it to the rectangular format if you are possibly going to use this later in a different sum. And the rectangular format of this, if you want to go and do it yourself, would just be 92.73 minus J 24.85. And that is going to be the first part. So all that we've gone and done is we've gone and multiplied A by B, and we have to work in the polar format. I would now like to go and do A divided by B. In this case, you just go and write down the polar format as you have got it. So that's going to be 12 with an angle of 40, and that is going to be divided by 8 with an angle of minus 55. Now, in this case, what we will go and do is take the two numbers on the outside of the bracket, and we're going to say 12 divided by 4, and 12 divided by 4 is going to give me a value of 1.5. And then as far as the angles are concerned, the top angle minus the bottom angle. Be careful, the bottom angle has got a negative number. So in this case, it's going to be 40 minus 55, which is the same as 40 plus 55, which is going to give me an angle of 95 degrees. As always, good practice just to go and take that value that you have got and put it down in the rectangular format in case you do need this a little bit later. And in this case, minus 0.13 plus J 1.49 would be the answer. So if we go and take a top up of this again, if we were to go and add A with B, that is the polar answer, and that is going to be the rectangular answer. If we were to go and divide B into A, that is going to be the polar answer, and that is going to be the rectangular answer. So the rules remain exactly the same. When you are adding, you're going to use the rectangular format, the same as when you're subtracting. And then if you are multiplying or dividing, you're going to use the polar format. So as always, stick to the rules and you can't go wrong.